The most pressing issue in politics today is global poverty. At the end of 2022, World Bank reported 685 million people are still living in extreme poverty. If politicians do not address the global poverty cycle, improvements will not be achieved. World Vision defines the cycle of poverty as when a child is born into a poor family. These families often have limited or no resources to create opportunities to advance themselves, which leaves them stuck in the poverty trap. To understand why the cycle of poverty occurs and why families cannot create opportunities for themselves, we need to investigate the structures that are put in place to prevent them from escaping poverty. One of these factors is capitalism. Malbrough wrote that capitalism is a fraud. It promotes the idea that everyone has a fair and equal chance to succeed, and that hard work is all it takes and justice is inherent. However, most of the advantages and rewards are available to people are shaped by race, class, and gender. This includes the distribution of earnings and wealth, political power, and educational opportunities. It is clear capitalism is not equal, as otherwise poverty would not be so high, as everyone would just have to work hard to see the benefits. Another contributing factor is neoliberalism. Neoliberalism has shaped and structured poverty around the globe. Neoliberalism constructs the poor, especially women, as deficient and immoral individuals who do not take full responsibility for their own fate. The impact of neoliberalism on the poor is expressed in several interrelated features, including the restructuring of welfare and state, growing precarity and inequality, and the fabrication of entrepreneurial subjectivity. These structures are important to address. It makes it impossible for poverty to be resolved, as no matter how hard they work, people are still stuck in these systems that are rigged for them to fail.
The poverty divide between the global north and south has been born out of a multitude of factors, such as capitalist and neoliberal policies, through which a form of imperialism was systematized and subsequently inflicted onto non-Western states. An important example of this is how American imperialism has destabilized Afghanistan, leading to its current poverty crisis. During the Cold War era, America launched Operation Cyclone to arm and train the Afghan Mujahideen to fight against the Soviet-backed Afghan government. Despite the US waging a successful campaign, but Baker argues they never really pulled out of Afghanistan. For example, the CIA supported the creation of the Taliban and aided their rise to power in the mid-1990s. American political propaganda during the late 20th century hence frames foreign policy in the Middle East as a means to spread democracy, a facade which, as Baker accentuates, laid the foundations for a war on terror, a war which proved to be a useful ideological construct to justify interventionist foreign policies. After the 9/11 attacks, the aforementioned war on terror was launched, and America laid their imperial ambitions in Afghanistan. Jean rightfully asserts that this war was waged under the guise to pursue Washington's geostrategic interests, controlling a country that bordered the oil-rich former Soviet republics of the Caspian Basin, as well as China, and thereby securing US domination of Central and South Asia. During this time, the US spent at least $2 trillion on invading and occupying Afghanistan, causing their economy and people to collapse into extreme poverty, which has only become worse after the infamous US withdrawal during 2020 to 2021. The International Rescue Committee reports have indicated that after the Taliban became the de facto government, this has prompted international donors to suspend most non-humanitarian funding and freeze billions of dollars in assets. This facet of poverty being proliferated by war and insecurity thus represents the problematic nature of Western imperialism and how it destabilizes states of the global south, solidifying this poverty divide. How to resolve world poverty will now be discussed.
The cycle of poverty fueled by the divide between the global north and south is a systemic issue that does not have an easy fix. However, one of the many ways to tackle it is through distributing the global north's resources appropriately. A recent poll asking Americans to rank the importance of international concerns showed that rebuilding Afghanistan ranked last despite America's role in destabilizing Afghanistan. Economic sanctions are one way global north states like America can be held accountable to reduce the financial gap between the global north and south. Economic sanctions are perceived as international punishment as they disrupt trade flows and economic growth. Economic sanctions work because they destabilize the leaders and economy they target by increasing the risk of losing power by 28% while avoiding the need for military intervention. Other ways to solve global poverty is through increased international aid and implementation of quality economic policies in global south countries. Although poverty reduction relies on the quality of economic policies, it is important to recognize that the international aid, sanctions, and quality policies all interlink, and one of these alone will not resolve global poverty. Economic growth is influenced by policies such as macroeconomic stability, good rule of law, and trade openness.